something happened.
British development veteran and the local development hero Team17, who you probably know best for the Worms series, which has been hugely popular over the years. If you're a slightly crustier gamer like myself, you may even remember them back in the early Amiga days in a previous life of 17-bit software when they used to do public domain games. And then I think their first Amiga game was Full Contact, a very pretty beat-em-up. And the game they're going to be talking about today is the evolution of one of their early Amiga hits, Alien Breed. And to talk us through that, we have design manager John Dennis.
Hello. Welcome to what is probably 1 hour of disappointment. After that, I'm not quite sure I'm going to live up to that, Billy. So as Johnny said, my name's John Dennis. I'm design manager at Team17. I've been at Team17 for 12 and a bit years. I've worked on a lot of Worms games. And Team17's been around a long time. I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. I just want to gauge the crowd we've got in here today, and I'm just overwhelmed really by how many people there are. Would want to spend their free time coming and listening to a game developer. So, okay, each to their own. Can I just have a quick show of hands? People who work inside the industry. Great. There's a few at Team17. There's a cluster over there. Hello guys. I know it's Gavin, one of our designers. Hello Gav. You put your hand up there. I'm not sure what you do. Qualified as work. We'll let it ride. And how many journalists are there here today? Right. Okay. And sorry. Can you put your hands up again? Just see. Sir, where are you from?
Ace Games.
Ace Games. Website?
Yeah.
My favourite game reviewing website. Great. I'm joking. I was going to do that to lots and lots of people, but I thought I'd get pretty tired pretty quickly, so I'll just leave it at that. Great. And students here, show of hands. Wow. Okay. So I'm thinking Leeds. Sorry, you can put it down there. Programmer. Yeah, nice one. So I'm thinking Leeds, Met, Huddersfield, Sheffield, Hallam, Bradford. Any further afield than that?
Teesside.
Teesside, oh good. Great Yarmouth. Well, thanks for coming. It's a long way. Remember what I said about disappointment. In this session here, I'm going to talk a bit about Alien Breed, and I think my talk lasts about half an hour, not too long. And I think we've got a Q&A session at the end where feel free to ask what you want. Okay, so I'll kick off. Johnny nicely covered some of my presentation. Where is he? He's gone. Oh, well, thanks. Thank you. He covered about the first 5 minutes of my presentation. So, here at Team17, we're an independent video game developer. And we're just based down the road in sunny Ossett, near Wakefield. And we were established in 1990, and we were born from a company called 17-bit Software. And the name, we get asked quite a lot where the name comes from. It's got nothing to do with there being 17 of us, nothing to do with having 17 pounds, nothing to do with the now defunct E17 pop group. Show my age there. How many of you remember them? But it's nothing to do with that. I think the name came from, at the time, the technology was 16-bit, and in an incredibly short-sighted move, the company decided to call themselves 17-bit, and then as soon as you move on to 32-bit, obviously 17-bit sounds a bit shit. So they changed it to Team17, and so that's where the magical name comes from. And we're best known, as Johnny said, for Worms, and I've been led to believe the game's sales are approaching 20 million in total for all of the Worms games, which is incredible. It's a homegrown success. You know, we're just based down the road. We're kind of a small company. We have fun. We've made this game, which has gone on to be incredibly successful. And can I do another quick show of hands? Anybody own a Worms game? Wow, nearly everybody. There was a hand here. Did you say which Worms game do you own?
Worms 1.
Worms 1, was it? Sorry, Worms 1. Okay, and you, sir?
Oh,
Did you own one? Yeah, which one? Worms 1, great. And I think you'll agree they're fantastic entertainment, great value for money. Yeah. Can you just nod? Okay. Anyone here own more than one Worms game? Yeah? 3 Worms games, anyone? You sad people. Well done you, thank you. You've kept me and the other Teamsters in the audience for in work for a good while, so thank you very, very much. But I'm going to go on to say that actually is it my mum? Tell her I'll ring her back. Is it your mum? Tell her I'll ring her back. So I'm going to talk a little about, again, this talk is about alien breed. I will get around to it.
Should call it back.
I will get around to it, honestly. So we start in the 1990s, and although we're known for Worms, some people probably, you guys are kind of, I imagine, quite hardcore. You probably know that actually we made a lot of different games, and to prove the point, I've kind of copied some incredibly small thumbnail box shots of our games, and what have we got there? We've got Alien Breed. Well, I'll come to that in a moment. We've got Assassin, Arcade Pool. Back when we made sports games, it's kind of like pools. Very good pool simulation. Some people say still one of the best pool simulations. F-17 Challenge, a racing game. Project X, which I still get a fair few mails about. People asking when are we going to bring that back. I don't know is the answer. Stop asking. Please stop sending mails. I've told you before. Please stop sending mails. So Project X, a side-scrolling shooter. We got Full Contact, which was kind of like a side-scrolling combat game. Body Blows, which was a beat-em-up, and Super Frog, which I can probably say was a bit of a Sonic knockoff, but with a frog instead of a hedgehog. And we can make lots and lots of different games back in the day, lots of different genres. Great times, good times. But actually we made a bunch of different Alien Breed games as well, and as if to prove the point, I've got another bunch of Alien Breed box shots here. So we've got Alien Breed 2, Tower Assault, Alien Breed 3D, where the game went 3D, Killing Grounds, which was a sequel, and Alien Breed Special Edition. And to give you an idea, these games were very, very popular. Alien Breed Special Edition went to #1 in the charts, and it stayed there for 33 weeks, unbroken, which I believe is still a record. And back then, when that was released, that year we won Joint Publisher of the Year with EA. And obviously I don't know what's happened to them. Obviously it's quite a sad story. They're not here today. We're the mighty Team17.
They're outside.
And that's taught them. We showed them who knew best, didn't we? So I've got some footage just to show you. These games were state of the art at the time. There we go. Quick show of hands. Anybody actually play this game? Just quick show of hands. Oh wow, quite a lot of you. Do you remember there might not be enough keys in a level, and you'd have to use your ammo to shoot doors. It's kind of quite a harsh game. It's quite hard. These things are aliens for those younger people. This isn't me playing.
Required birthday.
Yeah. That wasn't me. I was much better at this game than that. Great. Where's my PowerPoint? Oh, there it is. So that's what the game was like. It was a 2D top-down game, large levels. Ammo was always in short supply. Okay. So that's kind of what the game was about, and I'm quite surprised how many of you have played it. So what happened? What happened to Team17? Why did we just make Worms? Why, after all of that success, do we just keep making Worms games? And that's something that I've been asked quite a lot. And there are 3 main reasons for that, as I see it: the success of the Worms series, the arrival of the PlayStation, and third-party publishing. So these three things, three things combine to ensure that Team17 is limited in the games that it can make. So the first thing is Worms was incredibly successful. Worms 1, I think, sold about 4 or 5 million, which is a lot. That's a lot of games. That's very attractive for publishers. And with the arrival of the PlayStation and mass market adoption of gaming, games stopped being or they stopped being quite so nerdy. And I kind of use that term lightly because I've seen a few kind of people wearing Matrix-style coats knocking about today. If there's anyone in here wearing a makeup, I'm sorry. The arrival of the PlayStation, mass market adoption of gaming, means that people expect high production values in their games. They expect great graphics. And I remember when I first bought my PlayStation, the games almost looked like arcade games. They looked like incredible. When Ridge Racer came out, I was like, oh my God, this looks pretty much like the arcade game. And you could only have that experience previously by actually going to an arcade and playing on sitting in a big machine, with a steering wheel. And so people's expectation of what games should be rises. But unfortunately, along with that, to make good-looking games, they cost a lot more money. They take a lot more time. They need a lot more staff. And so, back in the day when Team17 were making like Arcade Pool and Body Blows and Full Contact, it could be like a couple of guys. It could be a small team. It wouldn't take very long. The financial risk was very, very small. Whereas with PlayStation games, obviously, it's going to take maybe tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds to make these games. And that's a large investment. And also, on top of that, you need to get, if you're doing a game for PlayStation, you need Sony's approval. You need to actually, put the concept in for approval. You need to let them test it and make sure it follows all of their rules, their TRCs. And so with that comes a lot of cost and a lot of complication. And so, as an independent, it meant that Team17 could no longer fund the entirety of game development. We couldn't actually afford to make a game that looked like Resident Evil, that looked like those great games that came for the first wave of PlayStation. And so what happens is we enter into an agreement with a publisher. So we become a third-party studio. We become, if you think of us as maybe an author who writes a book, and then we take the book to a publisher or a series of publishers, and they look at the book and they think, we think this will make money, or we don't think this will make money. And if they don't think it'll make money, they're not interested in publishing your book. And if anyone's tried writing a book and getting it published, that's pretty much the result you get. Only really when it's a dead cert do they say, actually we're going to publish this. It's exactly the same with video games. So when we approach video game publishers and say, we've got an idea for a game, what about this? Generally, they're not too interested. But when we say, hey, we want to make a Worms game, and they go, how much did the last one sell? Oh, about 4 million. Yeah, we think that could work. And so, as a result, we end up making a lot of Worms games. We make, Worms 1, I'm trying to think now, Worms United, Worms Reinforcements, Worms 2, Worms Armageddon, Worms 3D, Worms 4 Mayhem, Worms Open Warfare, Worms Open Warfare 2, etc., etc. A lot of Worms games, all of them good, great value for money, fantastic entertainment, I think we all agree. Just nod, sir. So that's what happens, and that's a problem for a lot of independent studios. They get, they make something, it's incredibly successful, and so publishers say, people like it, let's make some more. And you see it in a minute, this Christmas, what are the biggest titles going to be? Last Christmas, what were the biggest titles? They're sequels or they're licenses. And the reason is because publishers are looking for something that's low risk, that has already a history of selling. So if they can tie it to a movie release, that's a good thing for them. Or if it's like Guitar Hero 5 or Rock Band 3 or Bioshock 2, something that was successful in the first place, then they're interested. And so it's very hard to actually get original games made. That's just the fact of it. Those companies that do make original games are generally first party. They're normally owned by Sony or Microsoft. And in those cases, Sony or Microsoft aren't really interested necessarily in the recoup of that title because they're interested in selling their hardware, so they want something good on it, so they look at those games as an investment. And so what we have is, in the 90s, is we have we have a list of alien breed almost breeds. And the first one of them is Alien Breed Conflict, or ABC. Is quick show of hands. Does anybody remember this? Getting any press coverage? In the early days of the internet? Okay, yeah. Kelvin, do you work at Team17, you idiot? Sure. Of course you remember it. Okay. But thank you, there was one other hand up. Okay, so, you wouldn't believe how hard I had to look around for these screenshots, and they're not the best, I'll be honest. But this was, at the time, this was kind of state of the art. That's actually, for a game in the 90s, that's actually, the lighting's actually quite nice. Believe me, it is. There's a lot of kind of blank expressions. It is, it looked quite nice. But at this time, Team17 was moving towards console development. We were moving away from PC, and this was a PC-based game. And coupled with some technical issues that the game had, meant that actually the project was canned and it never arrived. And so, that's the first kind of alien breed, almost breed. The second one was Alien Breed Arcade. And I felt sorry for picking on Gav earlier, and I know he likes cats, so I put in everybody likes a cute cat picture, and I like to put a cute cat picture in every presentation of this. Gav, I hope that goes some way to... You're welcome. Actually, I couldn't find any screenshots for Alien Breed Arcade, and all I've got is a bit of concept art there. And the thought behind Alien Breed Arcade was that as we're moving towards console, maybe we're going to go back, we're going to do an arcade version of the game. We're going to do something console-based, but we punted this around several publishers. We couldn't find any interest, and at the end of the day, we wrote a design document, and we did some level designs, and we did some concept artwork, but we couldn't get anyone into the idea of buying it, and so it just got shelved in the end, which is another shame. There's quite a lot of these. 2005, Alien Breed PSP, and what you see here is. This is a level that we made, a demo. This actually worked on PSP. So, kind of in the bottom right corner, down there's a room with a guy in it, so it gives you an idea of the scale of the map. There's this like red room. The red room you see there was kind of a reactor room, and there were at the right end of that room there's kind of like some rings that spun around a bit like Event Horizon, something like that. And then this blue room up the top here, that was some sort of reactor, I think, that you walked out across, and there were all these pipes and water, and that worked on PSP. And what we were thinking there was, oh great, new platform, perfect. Alien Breed, be ideal. Pick up and play gameplay, super. Let's have a go. And we pitched that around several publishers, and nobody was interested except for Sony. And so, we were, great. Sony are interested. Sony were. We were working with a very nice chap at Sony who was kind of heading up the department in London. He loved the idea of the game. He was talking about it being very big, bells and whistles basically. We were very, very excited. So we started designing the game, made a demo, and then he left and moved to America, and his department got disbanded. And so we thought, that's it's another almost breed, right? But actually, Sony Liverpool, we had a chance meeting with Sony Liverpool at a trade show, and they were like, what's this? We've never seen this. Like, oh, great, we're in again. Sony, you like this? So we pitched it to them, and they said, we kind of like it, but you pitched it to us in the wrong way. And we said, tell us how you want it pitched to you. And we went, okay, and they told us, and so we pitched it back to them. We said, what do you think? And they went, nah. Pretty much, to cut a long story and a lot of work short. So we're like, oh, great, here we go again. So, what's changed? Why am I talking about Alien Breed today and not another nearly breed? Well, one thing changed: digital delivery. And here I've got some of the early successes of Xbox Live Arcades. We've got Geometry Wars, Castle Crashers, our very own Worms, great value, fantastic entertainment. Thank you. And Uno. And all of these games have sold a lot of copies, many, many, many copies. And digital delivery is great for an independent developer like Team17 that owns their own IP. Because what it means is, we don't have to go to a publisher. We don't have to, we can make a game that is smaller in scale than a box product. So we can keep our own costs down. So the investment is manageable for an independent developer like us. And really, we only have to deal with the platform holder. So in the case of Alien Breed, it's Sony and Microsoft, and the nice guys at Valve for Steam. So we deal with them directly. And the other good thing is that it makes it viable financially. So those of you in the industry, you probably know this, but for those of you not in the industry, out of your £40 that you spend on a game, the developer only gets a fraction of that. They get a tiny, tiny fraction. And the reason is because the first person that takes money out of that £40 is retail. They want a large chunk of that money for putting that box on a shelf. Well done them. There's no retailers here today, are there? Great. They're evil, spawn of Satan. I say, what about? They take quite a lot of money just for putting the box on the shelf. So that's the first thing. Then you've got the cost of goods themselves. So actually the cost of the disc, the box, printing the manual, these are all overheads that have to be factored in and they have to be paid for out of that £40 that you paid for the game. Then there's the publisher. They want some money as well. They've published the game, they've put an investment into it, they want to see a return as well. And there's a distributor, the people who actually move the game from a warehouse to a shop. They want a slice of the pie as well. So by the time it comes to the developer who's made the game, out of £40, if you're even on a royalty deal, you might be getting like £1.50 maybe, or £1, out of that £40. It's like you get a tiny thing. That money is a long, long way away from you, and there's a lot of people in that queue in front of you. Whereas digital delivery, it's much, much different. You've got people pay for the game, Microsoft takes a slice, and then the rest comes to you. Great. And the other thing is there's no piracy. Which is something that does affect independent developers like Team17, no matter what people say. That does take money out of our pockets. And there's no used market as well. So when you go into a game and you buy a pre-owned game, the developer, the publisher, nobody who's made that game gets any of that money. That game keeps that. That's all of theirs. So they can sell a game for £40 and then they'll buy it back from somebody for £7, and then they'll sell it again for £30, and then they'll buy it back again for £5, then they'll sell it again for £20, and it carries on. Each time they make that transaction, the developer's getting none of that. That's just gained money, and it counts now for 1/3 of their income. It counts for 1/3 of their business. And with digital delivery, obviously that isn't a problem anymore. You buy the game, it comes to your console, and it's stuck on your console. So it's basically one purchase, one copy. So it's very good for a company like Team17. So we released Worms March 2007, and Worms has been incredibly successful on Xbox Live Arcade. I don't think I'm allowed to say how many it sold. It sold many, many copies. Anybody around here? Great. Not too many of you. A few more could. If I'm honest, I'm slightly disappointed. For those of you who didn't bring that up. It's a great game, fantastic value for money, etc., etc. But Worms was incredibly successful, and after we made Worms on Xbox Live Arcade, our kind of first tentative digital title, we had an idea about maybe making an Alien Breed game. I don't know why we would have that idea after all of the nearly Alien Breed titles that we worked on through the 90s, but we thought actually it's quite viable now. We can self-fund this, and we've got a route to market. We can actually do it. Those publishers saying no to us, it doesn't matter anymore. We'll do it ourselves. And our idea was AAA light. And what I mean by that is that the visuals of the game are next gen. We used Unreal 3 engine to make a game. It looks stupendous. It looks astounding. I mean, it's the product of some of the people in this room, actually. Some of the Teamsters who are in this room, a very talented group of people have been working on it, and it looks and it plays really, really well. And actually, if you don't believe me, we've got a build of it on our booth. You're more than welcome to walk straight out of this presentation after I finish and go and play it and see for yourselves. I've got some footage. I won't bore you with too lengthy a clip, but to give you an idea. So we had this idea that we'd bring the game back and we'd keep its original core values. And as I said, when that game first came out on Amiga, actually hard as it is to believe, the visuals were kind of groundbreaking at the time. And so we wanted to make something that was very attractive, that had co-op multiplayer. We've done that offline and online, 2 players playing co-op. Yeah, so that was the idea. But there's a problem with our idea, and that is recoup. For those of you not in the industry, that means how do we get our money back that we're going to spend making it? And I think Martin's done some interviews where he's talked about how much we've spent on the game, and it's in excess of $2 million, I think he says. I don't know how accurate that is, no idea. It's quite a lot of money though, I think. We've had Paul. Is it really? Okay, I won't say that. It's more than I thought. Is that your inflated wage, Paul? So the reason we've had 30 guys working on this game for maybe 18 months. That's quite a lot of money. That's a big digital title. That's not a small game like Feeding Frenzy. It's not Feeding Frenzy. It's not Hexic. It's actually quite large. And so the problem there is recoup. We had an idea about what we wanted to make. We wanted to make something that was large, ambitious, looked beautiful. And so basically we had a solution. We went to Microsoft and we said, look, we've got an idea, but we don't think it's going to fit in one game. What do you think about making a trilogy? And they said, yeah, that's great. So that's what we did. And we got a trilogy. So the first one's coming out, I think, later this year, before Christmas, and then the next 2 will be staggered after that. But obviously, creating a trilogy creates its own problems. So it's maybe solved the problem of recoup because the effort and the time that we're putting in, we're not making just one game, we're making 3. So you've got 3 opportunities for players to purchase the game, which is a good thing. But it's got its own problems. And the first of those is getting people to buy more than one. So you buy one, you buy one alien breed. What's going to motivate you to buy the second one? And so we've got a number of solutions for that. And the first one is unique settings. So each episode's got unique places that the player characters go. They look different. They play different. We've got different weapons in each episode. So as the player progresses through the game, they get increasingly, I suppose, destructive weaponry. We've got different enemies, and this was something, our game kind of does like one thing really, it's a twin stick shooter with a bit of survival horror thrown in. So in order to keep you entertained for maybe 5 to 8 hours, which is kind of what each episode is, we had to think of ways that we were going to break that up and add gameplay depth, and one of the ways we did that was with enemies, where we've got a whole variety of enemies in the game, and each one kind of requires different strategies to overcome. So we've got aliens that, there's one alien that kind of screams and runs towards you really quickly and does a really damaging melee attack. There's another one that just hangs back and shoots at you. There's another one that heals other aliens. There's another one that climbs on walls. There's another one that kind of stuns, and the world slows down when you get stunned, and it makes you more vulnerable to other attacks. So as you come into combinations of aliens, different combinations require you to prioritise targets differently and act in different ways, and we thought that was important. That's one of the ways we tried to address that. And each episode's about 5 to 8 hours long, so each episode's got kind of 5 bespoke levels that you travel through, and it's also got another 3 multiplayer levels that are built specifically for multiplayer co-op that can be played offline or online. And the other thing we did as well, getting people to buy more than one, is the specially built pilot. So most Xbox Live Arcade games, when you download the trial, what you get is you get the first 5 minutes or the first 10 minutes of the game. That's what you get. That's not what you get with Alien Breed. We've got a specific level to show you the breadth of what's on show. So it's a bit like, we like to think of our pilot as kind of like a shopping mall, a bit like a shopping mall where behind the glass of the windows you can see everything that's on sale in this game, but if you actually want to go in and buy it, you have to purchase the game if you want to actually experience it. But a few of you, I don't know, has anyone actually played Alien Breed already on the booth? Yeah? You've been playing, if you've been playing it multiplayer, you've actually been playing the trial. Did you enjoy it, Sam?
Yeah.
Thank you, I'm glad he said that. Imagine if he said no, it's shitballs. I should have actually asked one of the teams, should I? Yes, you sir, who works at Team17, thank you! So I should have, thank you. But that's what you've been playing. You've been playing the specially built pilot, and we wanted the pilot to explain the game to the player, give them a nice difficulty curve, and kind of show off what the game's about, show off the diversity of the environments and the aliens. So that's one of the other things that I suppose slightly innovative things that we've done to try and make people purchase the second one. And the last thing that we've done is narrative. And narrative's a strong motivator for people who play games. Has anybody completed a game because they wanted to find out how the story ended? Yeah, well, wow, quite a lot. And you, why are you shaking your head? So that proves, that show of hands there proves actually how powerful a motivator narrative is. People want to know how the story ends. That's why people watch, EastEnders. It's banal. It's got Ian Beale in it, but they want to find out what actually happens to Ian Beale. They want to find out what happens to his chip shop. I sound like I watch it now. And so what we've done is we have one narrative that goes over the 3 episodes. And each episode ends in a cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger is not resolved until the next episode. So, you buy episode 1, ends on a cliffhanger, you want to find out what happens, you have to buy episode 2. So that doesn't sound too dirty, does it? A few people going, it goes across all 3 episodes. Each episode's on a cliffhanger, resolved in the next episode, and it's conveyed via. We've got a number of ways that we convey, and the first one's voiceover. So we worked with a writer, an American writer, who wrote the dialogue for the game, and we had a great deal of fun, kind of like sending the dialogue out and getting actors to audition by speaking some of the lines. So I've got some of them here. Our hero's called Conrad, and he's a little bit like, I suppose, John McClane out of Die Hard, something like that. So this is the voice we like.
Respond. I don't carry schematics of ghost ships around my pocket.
He sounds a lot like Max Payne.
I have no damn clue what I'm looking for, or what to do when I get there. Should doesn't exactly put my mind at ease.
So he's kind of gruff, he's kind of a bit short with everybody he speaks to, he comes back with his kind of like witty one-liners. And we've got a kind of a companion for him called Mia. And we wanted to sound a little like Sharon Stone, I
Conrad,
suppose.
we're entering the planet's atmosphere now. At our current rate of decay, I calculate we have roughly 6 hours before we impact the surface. Did you find the engine room yet? I understand, Conrad. Attaching your modems to the terminals and reconnecting any broken cables will be sufficient to patch me through to the ghost ship.
Spoiler alert. I didn't realise that, actually. I should have been a bit more careful about which one's a fiction. And the last one is we've got a character that you don't actually meet in episode 1. Is this a spoiler? What do you think, Mark? Should I? Okay. And this guy's called Klein, and he's kind of like, this is his voice.
We're still alive, correct? Most impressive. You must know I spent hundreds of years alone here, comrade. Alone, that is, except for my pets.
He was modelled on Paul Gilman, our producer. The voice of evil. So yeah, they're conveyed via voiceover. That's one way that it's conveyed. It's also conveyed by story panel, which I'll show you. We've got these comic book panels, animated comic book strips. Again, a little like Max Payne, if you think Max Payne. You know what happened when I was searching for that first cat pick? I found this one and I couldn't reduce it. So I just put both in. I found some great stuff to put in here, and but then after I got all the pop-up windows to close, I thought that probably wasn't suitable, and so I picked this cat pick. Yeah, so we've got some animated comic panels, and here's one of the animated comic panels here. And these play like Max Payne with voiceover, speech bubbles. They're kind of cool. And they're another way how the story's conveyed. And the last way the story's conveyed is there's a series of kind of logs that are scattered around the ship that the player can collect. When you collect them, they're things like journals, or has anyone played a quick show? Anyone played a Resident Evil game? Yeah, great. So you'll know what I'm talking about there, right? You know those things you collect, itchy tasty, the kind of like the little logs that people leave behind, that give you an insight, and through those you realise actually what happened on this ship, how the aliens came about. So, that's a bit of a spoiler as well, I suppose, isn't it? But it explains what's happened on the ship. Yeah, that's why we've done it. We hope, what that narrative adds weight to the story, it adds weight to the game, it adds context to the experience, it gives meaning to what you're doing, but also it's a motivator for you to continue and to explore as well once you're in it. So here we are, 2009, we're due for release at some time before the end of the year, with 2 episodes to follow. What's the future? Where do we go from here? Well, we don't really know, because the upshot of being an independent and self-funding your own games is really we're reliant on how well those games sell. And so if those games sell well, there might be some more, but there'll certainly be other games from Team17. If they don't sell well, there certainly won't be any more, and there might not be any games from Team17. And that's how it is. The future's in our own hands. And that's why we've really gone all out to try and make this game as good as it can be. The biggest deciding factor on digital sales is quality. And the reason is because people get to download a trial first. They get to try it before they buy it. If it isn't very good, they don't buy it. It's not like a box game where you just go into a shop and you have to buy it on trust or on the picture that's on the front cover. You actually get to play the game first, and if you like it, you buy it. And so those games that sell well on PSN, on Xbox Live, Arcade and Steam are the best games. The best games sell the best, and those games that aren't very good don't sell. And so we know that, and we've really tried to. This is as good as we can do. This is, it's a lovely game. It plays really well. It's really good fun. I think we're all very proud of it. So who knows what the future is? I don't really know, and that's I suppose that ends the presentation on something of a question mark. I'd suggest that probably at some point today, if you're interested in the game, go and have a look at it on our booth and have a play and make your own mind up about the game. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.